Welcome to Bots and Beyond, your weekly dose of all things automation, mixing up end user, vendor and consultant experience to create your go-to podcast for bot-related insights. I am your host, Wayne Butterfield, and I've got another great guest lined up this week, a friend, mentor, old boss, Mr. Barry Matthews. Welcome, Barry, to Bots and Beyond.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a delight to be here. I'm very excited to chat with you today.
And I'm really excited about today's episode because it's another topical discussion point around work, around how work is sourced, and the gig economy. It's something I'm really getting interested in. It was spoken about on a previous episode very briefly with Richard around remote working and what that has enabled them to be able to do with regards to sourcing customer service employees. So I'm really, really keen to get stuck into the detail because I know you've got so much insight from the work that you're doing at Resource. Let's just introduce you to the audience. So let's do our who you are, what you do, and why you do it, please, Barry.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Wayne. Yeah, so I'm Barry Matthews. I am the founder and managing director of a new consulting company called Resource. I've been involved in consulting for 20 odd years now. I've always been a consultant, basically a career consultant, or have run consulting companies and 3 of my own now. Typically the consulting that I've done is to help organizations do things better, faster, cheaper. So trying to help big businesses to use technology and new operating models to be as efficient and productive as they can possibly be. I basically hate inefficiency. And that's taken me through a career which has gone through outsourcing and offshoring, which I'm still involved in, business process outsourcing and IT outsourcing, bits of shared services and global business services, into the world of RPA, into digital transformation, and now into the wonderful world of open talent. So that's who I am. And what I do is, well, what Resource does is to help enterprise organizations access the wonderful world of open talent, whether you call it gig economy, the passion economy, platform sourcing, the ability to access expertise, which is distributed around the world, and to access it via platforms is something that can deliver significant efficiencies to organizations. So our job in life is to help large enterprises to access that at scale. And why I do that is because I believe the future of accessing talent really is digital, and it really is on demand. I think when it's done well, it can provide immediate on demand at the click of a button access to the right skills at the right time. And not doing that is almost it's so inefficient. It can be unproductive to wade through paper-based CVs and get approval and take 3 months to hire somebody in the traditional way, or to extend a contract with your outsourcing provider, which can take months and months, when the alternative is to be able to, at the click of a button, to access global pools of experts who are able to deliver for you better, faster, cheaper, is the future. I can't imagine a world of work or of outsourcing that isn't delivered digitally via platforms in the next few years. And so part of my job and Resource's job is to bring that to life in traditional enterprises.
Fantastic. I don't think you could have explained it. I certainly couldn't have explained it any better. Obviously now comes on to your bot name. You mentioned obviously that you have been involved in consulting for 20 years. You've had a number of different consulting firms. You've helped many enterprise source the people, talent, process, and that's where your name comes from, the Sourcetron.
Love it. I was going to have to get a new Twitter handle, I think.
Or maybe we could call it the Resourcetron, just to further build out the new brand. You've touched upon this already, but I guess I'm really keen to kind of dig into, let's think about workforce strategy. If we were to think about it historically, we would have said, that your mix would be in-house, outsourced. It might be onshore, offshore, and then we brought in automation, and so now it's silicon workers versus human workers, onshore, offshore. Tell me a bit about the role where you feel, the gig economy, the digital workforce. How is an enterprise needing to think about this new pool of talent, what are the steps that they need to be thinking about?
Yeah, great question. And that's really what resources in business to try to help enterprises achieve. When you think about, the demand for activity, not just in IT, but in business functions as well, but the demand for big companies to get things done. They have a lot of choices to make in how they get things done. They can, of course, get things done internally with their full-time employees. They can involve physical contractors, freelancers, associates, whatever we want to call them. They can outsource things to third parties. They can automate things and digital workers. And now increasingly, they can access platforms of experts to get things done. And if you think I've just reeled off, 5 or 6 different options, and I'm sure there are more, but making that right decision, balancing the right demand to the right supply is part art and part science. And if you can get it right using software and using experience and intelligence, then the productivity gains can be significant. And there are some organizations that are getting it right. And what we're seeing over the last few years, but it's been massively accelerated as a result of COVID, is a realization. It's like a light bulb has gone on, where organizations are realizing, we don't actually have to have the workers physically located on site in our offices. We can get things done remotely. And of course, we've always been doing that with outsourcing. But they're suddenly realizing I don't need to fully employ a freelance contractor. I don't need to fully employ an employer. I can actually access skills from talent platforms, sometimes without even realizing who or needing to know who's at the other end of the platform. As long as I'm getting the work done at the right level of quality and it's done in a timely fashion, I know how much I'm paying and I'm getting value for money, then I can access my data scientists, my user experience designer, my robotic process automation engineer via a platform, and they can provide me with a task. It's basically like renting as opposed to buying. You don't need to own the talent that you have access to. And this is something that's been relatively nascent. As I say, freelancing's been around forever, but not necessarily through platforms. But now, as a result of the digital progression, the digital revolution, and the last 6 months of COVID, is suddenly these digital platforms are seeing significant growth, 30%, 40% growth. There are 70 million freelancers working in the world now. Gartner predict that in 5 years' time, half of the world's working population will be freelance. And it's fueled by those of us who decide they want to take more control of their own careers and pick and choose what they do. They don't necessarily need to be in the same career path the whole time, let alone work for the same employer. That they want that flexibility. Millennials going into leadership roles, they're used to everything being on demand. And they go into enterprises where the workforce absolutely isn't on demand, and it's actually pretty analog, and it hasn't been digitally transformed like so much other technology. And so it's inevitable that they're going to turn to digital platforms like they do with everything else as consumers, and like they do with so many other things within enterprises. So it's inevitably gaining traction, and it's growing quickly. But organizations need help to think with an open mindset, think differently, change processes, add in new tools to orchestrate, get used to the fact that you can put tasks onto a platform and get something done, which is very different than, swiveling your chair, another RPA analogy, and talking to, someone behind you to get something done. They might be on the other side of the world and you might not know their name, and you got to get comfortable with that if you want to do things efficiently. So it's a really rapidly developing new area. It's not a panacea for everything. Of course, there are many things that don't make sense using open talent and never will, but there are many things that do, and understanding what does and what doesn't, what platforms work and which don't, how to contract for them, what the commercial models would be and how to implement it is all of the things that we are now doing.
Brilliant. And I think just touching upon that, or really digging into one of the last points you made there around what is and isn't the right type of activity to be using this gig economy in. Can you kind of give us some insight into like where you see the right type of activities versus those that you certainly wouldn't be considering?
Let me explain what the sort of the platforms are, because it's quite a complex market of a sort of area, and then explain what tasks you can use on the platforms. And I sort of think about platforms in three different models. So the first and the most simplest, if you like, are almost like matching marketplaces. You need a Java developer. You can go on to gig.com or Upwork or freelance.com and you could find that Java developer. Or you want a user experience designer, you can go on to Upwork or one of those, or TopTal, one of the many platforms, and just be linked to the right resource you're looking for. They're almost like marketplaces, almost like freelance recruitment sites, if you like. You want somebody for a day, for a week, for a month, and you can get put in touch. Really simple. Just about anything which you can define, you can put onto those platforms. The second type are the platforms that will almost curate activity for you, where you can procure, executive teams, you can procure consultants, you can get projects completed, where the platform takes more liability and responsibility for delivery. They'll screen the resources that you need. They'll make sure they're ideal for what you require. And these are, there are so many of them, but organizations like Catalent or Hoxby or Helper Street, which is a new consultancy, which is all fully on demand and remote, or Business Talent Group, where you could get executives to work for you. So they're sort of more of your curating rather than just placing individuals with you. And then the third one, and what's really interesting, and I think this is one that's probably least well understood, are more the crowdsourcing platforms, where you have as an enterprise, you have a problem which needs to be resolved. You might have an application in an old version of code, and you need it to work on AWS. You can put that onto a platform and ask the community that are members of that platform how much or to take part in a competition, let's say, in a challenge for an agreed price, to transform that application from one version to another. And those challenge-based platforms or competition-based platforms effectively are what's really referred to as crowdsourcing. I think the leaders in that space of Topcoder, who've been around for almost 20 years or so, acquired by Wipro in 2016. They got, I think now, 1.5 million members of the community, and their typical modus operandi is for enterprises to put challenges out, typically technology, AI related, user experience related, deep tech skills, and say, we need your help, community, to fix something for us. And then the competition starts, and community members come back and say this is how they will fix it, curated by Topcoder, who provide these experts called co-pilots and architects, take responsibility for the time, the quality, the cost that you agree. And you might get 10 responses back, and then you choose the winner. And typically the winner, the second and third place, get selected, but really quick, really cost effective. And then other ways crowdsourcing platforms are used are for things like ideas and innovation and involving members of your own customer base or your own supply base. And it might be a manufacturer looking for environmentally friendly packaging for cardboard boxes, or it could be a new water bottle that I've got in front of me here that I want a new design. I could put that out onto an innovation platform like Wazoku, or Innocentive that's just been acquired by Wazoku, or IDEO, or Crowdicity. And I can get ideas from the community to help me to design that water bottle, which will then turn into prototypes, which will then turn into a new type of water bottle. And engaging your suppliers, engaging your community, or just engaging the public suddenly gives you access to millions of people potentially that you wouldn't have in your own organization. But that takes a bit of thinking outside of the four walls of your company and outside of the box. So I would say the simple answer to your question is things which are able, i.e. what can you put onto a platform? Obviously depends on what type of platforms you're using, but to be able to stick something on a platform and get results back, it needs to be a bit like RPA again. It needs to be defined. You need to be able to sort of break it up into a defined chunk so you could put it onto a platform. Ideally, you'd be able to document exactly what it is. You'll be able to neatly fit it into a box. That's if it's on a crowdsourcing platform. But then the other way of looking at it is you can get any skill you want on a platform. And then you don't have to have things tightly described and defined. You say, I need a software developer, please. And they work for you as if they were physical. They just happen to be remote. And they will be paid based on their output. So it really is a real variety, which is why it needs some careful explanation when we're going into large enterprises to explain how it works.
And that's obviously one of the key reasons then why, there's a role for resource in this, because it feels like, although it's been around for a while, COVID has likely accelerated the ability, or at least the remove some of the mental blockers in the enterprise for why this is a justified way of getting work done. As much as we, can say and moan about some of the drawbacks of COVID, actually, in some areas, it really has just changed the way. And I heard this the other day, that we've gone through 4 years worth of change in just 4 months within the enterprise. And this as a concept clearly is something that I feel has benefited because we are now generally all working remotely. Therefore, does it really make a difference whether you're working remotely in Woodstock, Leeds, or Sri Lanka?
No, it absolutely doesn't, and I couldn't agree more. It's made enterprises sort of have this sort of great reset, as the World Economic Forum calls it. So thinking about the way, should we have these offices? Should we have all of these employees? Is there a better way of doing things? Should we automate? So they're thinking differently. And even when it comes, I was shouting at the radio this morning, which is something that I think happens as you get to middle age. So because there was a big thing about unemployment and rates of unemployment, especially in the younger generation, as a result of COVID, which is a terrible thing. But they're probably looking at data based on number of people taking unemployment benefit, or looking for jobs in a traditional way. And what I was sort of shouting at the radio was saying, get the young people with the right skills on a platform looking for those skills. We will be able to match and create employment that doesn't exist, right now. It's just educating people and organizations that there are digital ways to link them together using open talent platforms that would provide gigs, would provide meaningful employment, that would give them, great income and give enterprises access to some fantastic skills. But it's just matching those two things together. So, yes, work isn't somewhere you go anymore. It's something you do when you can, and you might fit it in between, feeding the kids and dropping them off at nursery. You might have a full-time job and then go and do a gig on a platform to do software development or user experience design, much like you might if you're an Uber driver on the side. So it has changed the way we think about work, definitely.
Great, and you touched upon kind of software development. Then I'm going to slightly move the conversation back towards automation, and just thinking about the role of the gig economy, on-demand talent, and automation. Thinking about some of the opportunities that this way of working can present to those in the world of intelligent automation, and thinking about the labeling of data, the building of conversational flows in chatbots, using resource and using the crowd in order to help improve the quality of your chatbots and things. I guess from an automation perspective, there are ways of using this type of approach to actually accelerate your ability to deliver better automations quicker, potentially cheaper, faster. And for those, I guess, who have centers of excellence, which generally are quite limited in the number of people that they have within them, there's usually always a constraint. It feels like, certainly in the world of intelligent automation, that there is potentially another way, that there is a way of being able to pull in additional resources, short term, via platforms. I guess is that something you've seen, you've heard? I know Top Coder historically have done things like this, but is that something that you've heard a lot of, or is that potentially something that's growing in popularity?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely growing in popularity. So I was talking to a client only last week around data science, and their manipulation of data, and they were looking to hire 10 data scientists. And what I was saying to them is, just take a step back and have a rethink about what you're trying to achieve with those data scientists. So yes, maybe it makes sense to hire some, maybe one or two, but then have a think about, what are you trying to achieve with your data? Because if you take the solution, or the problem statement that you're looking for, and you put it onto a data science platform where there are thousands of PhDs and data scientists who are accessing that platform, who could provide you with answers to and solutions to your data science challenge, whatever that might be. And there, platforms like, Pivigo or Mathasia, where they have experts, mathematicians and machine learning experts and algorithm experts and PhDs who are really interested to provide answers. You don't need to employ them. You put the challenge onto a platform and see what comes back. And if you think of the world of artificial intelligence and machine learning, you look at a platform like Expify, which came out of Harvard. They got 30,000 of the world's best experts in AI, waiting to help enterprises. And so, if you've got an intelligent automation challenge, you're looking at, the next level of AI, or it might be of machine learning, or you need help with NLP, or whatever it might be. Then, of course, there are platforms like Expify where you can get experts to help you on an on-demand basis. So, from an enterprise's perspective, you don't necessarily need to hire all of the AI experts yourself. You have someone leading things, and then you gain the world's best experts to try and help you, and you only pay for what you use. So I'm absolutely seeing a significant rise in the whole data science, machine learning, AI area. Not seeing a huge demand from an RPA perspective yet. And as you and I have discussed in the past, that's partly because of access to systems, although as a result of working remotely over the last 6 months, I think we've overcome that hurdle. So I think we will see an acceleration there. And the other thing I see with automation and then with crowd are some real similarities. So from a business perspective, organizations who want to expand in a non-linear way, they don't want to hire headcount to grow their business. And obviously, one of the ways you could do that is by automating processes and having digital workers. But another way you could do that is by accessing the crowd, where you don't own the workers. I think Abid, who was chief exec of Wipro when they acquired Topcoder, one of his stated objectives was to double the size of Wipro without hiring another employee. I'm working with organizations who want to expand their business by 10 times. They don't want to hire any headcount to do it. Now, one of the solutions is to automate processes and to expand your workforce digitally. But another one is if you, at the press of a button, you could access a crowd of experts who could help you. You don't own them. You just use their skills. And when you finished, you press the button and turn them off again. Solutions that are scalable and flexible and quick and resilient. And crowd or platforms and automation have many commonalities in that regard.
Excellent. And I think the challenges or the potential challenges around resource, around vetting that resource and all of your usual challenges I can imagine coming back from the enterprise of giving away, data and projects and, in the wonderful world of NDAs and everything being so secretive, you can understand why. I to be fair, I think it's an entirely new episode where we could go into the wonderful ways and whys of how secure this way of working is. But you can absolutely see the benefits, and if you can get past who is doing the work and where they're doing it from, and almost overlook that and just look at the output. Of course, while making sure and using these platforms, and you've mentioned, 10 different platforms there. I think 8 of them I probably never even heard of. So clearly there is a booming, platform workforce out there, and I guess it's anyone who's really interested should absolutely be reaching out and speaking with you, because as I say, I've learned a hell of a lot today. I'm sure the listeners have. Unfortunately, though, that brings us to the end of today's episode. It's been absolutely amazing again, mate, to catch up with you, to hear again such insightful commentary on this new way of working, how it's helping the enterprises that are adopting it, how it's providing employment, how it is enabling organizations to think about how they source work in different ways. So many positives, I think, out of today's conversation. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And any final kind of words from yourself, Barry? Any pearls of wisdom? Anybody who's interested in this now?
But no, I mean, let me say it's an absolute privilege to chat to you. I'm loving the podcast, and always love your work. I think this is an incredibly fascinating, challenging, fast-moving area of industry. The way we work is fundamentally changing. I know that sounds like a cliche, but it's absolutely true, and I'm seeing it every day. The rise of the platform economy is unstoppable. The way we access skills will be digitally done. It will be done via platforms. We won't care where somebody is sitting to do a task for us. It could be the other side of the world, and we might not know their name, as long as that task gets done at the right level of quality, in the right time frames, and at the right cost. And that's what we're opening up a whole new world of employment opportunities. And I think that's super exciting. And by the way, the final thing to say is, let's not forget diversity. It's such a diverse way of hiring skills. You don't care on a platform color, race, creed, academic qualifications. You care about the output that you get and the quality of the work that you get done. So there's so many benefits to it. So yeah, really exciting space. Thank you ever so much for having me on. And I'll look forward to getting you on our podcast, which is called How the Future Works. I had to get a plug in there, and you'll be on a future episode.
Excellent. Look forward to it, Barry. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks for listening to ISG Automation's Bots and Beyond podcast, your weekly dose of all things automation. See you next week for more news and views on RPA, intelligent automation, and AI.